this agreement.
I had an extraordinary experience at the peace conference in connection with the Palestine mandate. I was there as the head of the Foreign Office League of Nations section. And it so happened that the head of the Foreign Office section, who was dealing with the Palestine mandate, working very closely with Dr. Weizmann, very devoted to the Zionist cause, was a certain Eric Forbes Adam. And so every day in Paris, in the delegation offices, we used to argue this matter. And day after day I said to him, Eric, it's no good. I just don't believe it can work. I don't believe you can take a lot of people into somebody else's country without creating troubles of every possible description. And Eric Forbes Adam got very exhausted, very tired of listening to me saying this rigmarole, which I constantly repeated. And he said, will you fix a date to lunch with me sometime off so that I can make arrangements that I want to make? Friday week. So I said, all right, Friday week. And when I got to the lunch on Friday week, who were his other guests but Lawrence of Arabia and the Emir of Faisal? And I was converted to Zionism by those two men, Faisal making the speeches and Lawrence of Arabia translating from the Arabic. And the Emir Faisal said to me, of course we want Zionists to come into Palestine. We know what will happen. They'll bring vast sums of American and other capital from abroad. They'll bring in the greatest scientists in the world. All the greatest scientists are Jewish. And the territory of Palestine, now so arid and so much of it a desert, will be transformed. It will become a garden. It will blossom like the rose. We shall borrow their experts. We shall work together. We shall do the same in all the countries which we Arabs have turned into deserts. We shall make them flourish again, as they used to in the past.
And so the Zionist delegation, headed by Chaim Weizmann, Nachum Sokolov, and Menachem Osishkin, appeared at the peace conference with no Arab opposition. In his address, Osishkin claimed that the Jews too are entitled to self-determination. The land of Israel, he said, was forcibly usurped from the Jewish people, who were exiled and dispersed throughout the world. And now I, the descendant of those exiles, come before you and demand that our stolen historic homeland be returned to us. The agreement between Faisal and Weizmann was never put to the test. When the peace conference adjourned, the British made it clear that they were unable to keep their promises to the Arabs because of the strong objection of France, which claimed for itself the mandate over Syria and Lebanon. Faisal returned to Damascus empty-handed. When the news came that the French intended to expel Faisal from Syria, as he was too pro-British for their tastes, his Syrian and Palestinian supporters decided to launch a struggle. Excitement ran high in Jerusalem as well. In 1920, as the Nebi Musa festival procession left the Temple Mount, cries of "Long live King Faisal" and "Death to the Jews" could be heard. Suddenly the Arabs began to attack the Jews.
I'll always remember. It happened on Passover, the festival of Nebi Musa. This was always an enjoyable experience for both tourists and our own families. Their songs, enthusiasm, swords. But swords raised in joy. I never heard of anyone being wounded. Then on that Sunday, suddenly, they began to run, brandishing their swords, pointing with their fingers. That hotel is full of Zionists. Zionists have come. They'll take Jerusalem away from us. Aleum. Let's get them. Let's kill them. By the time they reached us, they had already killed a few. I didn't know then what death was. I thought they threw a few stones and that was that. But those that were hit never got up.
The Nebi Musa riots of 1920 were the first violent Arab attack on Zionism. 7 Jews were killed and 200 wounded. The world cared little about events in Damascus and Jerusalem. 3 weeks later, the Allies convened a conference in the city of San Remo on the Italian Riviera. Here, representatives of the great powers were to sign an agreement for partition of the Middle East. France received the mandate for all Syria and Lebanon, and immediately expelled the pro-British Faisal from Damascus. Britain was granted mandates over Iraq and Palestine, compensating Faisal for his expulsion from Syria by crowning him king of Iraq. Palestine, which then extended over both sides of the Jordan River, was set aside as a national home for the Jews.
I think it was the first overt step of, at that time, putting an end to Arab dreams of unity with Damascus as the capital, reviving the glory of the Umayyads and so on. Yes, I think it was a very, very crucial event. Perhaps from then on it became not a political problem, but political problems with particular problems in each sector of the Arab world. It was the beginning of fragmentation, if you want.
Arab leaders in Palestine were shocked by these developments. All their hopes of becoming part of an independent pan-Arab kingdom were shattered in one blow. In their sorrow, they appealed to Musa Kazim al-Husseini, a Jerusalem notable and former mayor, choosing him as their leader. "Now," said Musa Kazim, "after the recent events in Damascus, we must change our plans here. Southern Syria no longer exists. It is Palestine that we must defend."